the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this January 17th, Tuesday, second show today. Hope everybody's having a fantastic, I guess today is the beginning of the week because yesterday was Martin Luther King's Day. So I hope you're having a great Tuesday and a great beginning of a fantastic week. Yeah, Martin Luther King's Day was interesting. Yesterday we did a show on that. We did a little bit on that sculpture that was revealed in Boston. That got a lot of attention and got a lot of views for my talk on modern art. So that was really good. By the way, that one, that segment on the sculpture is a great one to share, and the lecture that I gave in Scotland on art and how to evaluate art and modern art, on how to evaluate sculpture generally, is a great one to share. So I'm hoping you continue sharing them. In a sense, it's evergreen. This is not, you know, it's not of any particular time. It's not like these political topics or other topics. It's a topic that anybody can enjoy at any point in time, agree or disagree. Many I know disagree. So yes, I encourage you to share the shows I've done on art. And I think today's show will be a show that is eminently shareable. You know, if there's one thing that Americans unite around their love of, it is sport. Not just Americans, but people everywhere in the world, which is interesting, and we can talk about that. Why is it that everybody, well, not everybody, there might be even some people in the chat right now, but almost everybody on a global scale, really, no matter, if you will, the culture, no matter the place, the time, sport is something people love. They love to watch it. They love to be fans. They love to play. But from the perspective of fandom, which is what what you can get out of sport, what you can appreciate about sport, what values sports represents for you, and how we can identify important objective values in sport. From that perspective, it's really interesting that everywhere, different sports in different places, for a variety of historical reasons, but maybe also issues of culture, of local culture. But everywhere, I don't know a country in the world where there isn't some, both individual and team sport that people just love watching and engaging in. And there's not a country in the world, it seems like, that does not admire athletes. And of course, the more civilized, the greater the love. Now, in my view, sports, to a large extent, sports is in some ways a replacement for art. We can talk about that, a replacement for art. It's because we're so poor, we're so primitive when it comes to the art that we have around us, the art that is presented in our culture to us. I think sports basically provides us with the need that we have for certain things, and so these are the kind of things we're going to talk about. I think also sports is a great place to model, to find examples, to find role models, particularly good virtues. I think it's quite exciting, and I think particular athletes, are particularly good at exemplifying certain virtues. So there's real heroic characters among the athletes, and we'll talk about one example. Today's show is sponsored by Adam Campbell, who is here. I saw him in the chat earlier, so he's chatting around. So thank you, Adam, for making the show possible and for funding it. So I really, really appreciate that. So the show today is a sponsored show, but this is a topic I love to talk about, so it is easy to do. I do want to mention before we jump into it that the Yaron Brook Show is sponsored by VPN Express or ExpressVPN. You can go to expressvpn.com/Yaron and you can get an extra 3 months on a subscription there. ExpressVPN, I use it on my iPads, on my laptop. I have it on my computer here. I don't use it very often on the computer here, but usually I tend to use VPNs when I travel to do financial issues. Also, when I'm in certain countries and I can't get Netflix, if you set your VPN on the USA, then you can watch your Netflix when you travel. So it's super convenient. ExpressVPN is particularly good. As I said, I use my iPhone, iPad, and my Apple laptop, and it works seamlessly on all of them. So I encourage you to subscribe. And then finally, of course, the Ayn Rand University is a sponsor. I'm also a professor, a lecturer, a something at the Ayn Rand University. So I'm going to be teaching a course on our communication. You can sign up for that. The details are online, or maybe they don't have the details yet because they're not ready yet, but they will be available. The course will be in the summer. I'll be doing a beginner's course and an intermediate course on that. And you can audit that, or you can take it for a grade, either way. Ayn Rand University is where you can really get an education on Ayn Rand's philosophy, on objectivism. It's the only place where you can get that live from professors. It's the only place where you can get graded and submit work, and as you'll see, be brutalized by professors like me. If you audit the public speaking course, you'll see me brutalizing the ones who are not auditing or actually taking the class. It'll be a lot of fun. You should actually take the class. That way you'll get the most of it, because I'll critique your actual speaking, public speaking. It'll be a great opportunity to improve your public speaking, learn some principles, and get to know a bunch of other people interested in public speaking and courses. So go to university.aynrand.org and let them know you found out about the university from the Yaron Brook Show. All right, let's see. We're going to do Super Chat questions, but I'm not going to answer them until we finish talking about the sports. Of course, if there are sports-related Super Chat questions, those will get priority. And I will, if I see a particular question that fits into the content that we're covering, then yes, absolutely, I will answer those. So feel free. You can support the show with stickers, but you can also do the Super Chat. But I won't do the Super Chat until the end of the show, until we finish covering the topic that Adam has sponsored. All right, so an interesting phenomena is the fact that sports is so universal, and that not only is the actual sport universal, but also particular athletes have universal, acclaim. That is, we admire specific athletes, and often people from very, very different philosophies admire the same athletes and admire them for the same thing. There's a sense in which, even in a culture that has internalized altruism, collectivism, in a variety of different irrational values, there is a compartment somewhere. There's a compartment somewhere, and I think this compartment in their mind is what keeps them alive and what keeps them going professionally, and what keeps them going and surviving, succeeding in life and whatever they succeed. But it is this compartment that I think responds to great sports, to the whole nature of sports. Because what is the nature of sport? I mean, the nature of sport is, and here I'm talking about not the kind of sport you do for recreation. I'm talking about professional sport. I'm talking about sports that we watch for enjoyment. I'm talking about sports where professionals, usually it's professionals, actually compete at the highest level. So what is it that the sports provides people? Well, the nice thing about sports, I mean, there are a lot of things that are nice, but the thing I think people respond to in sports is its competitive nature. The idea that there are actually winners and losers, and that's okay. It's, you know, that there's a sense in which sport is a zero-sum game internally. That is, there's one loser and one winner. It's more than a zero-sum game because people enjoy and get immense pleasure from watching the competition and watching the process. The losers don't lose in the sense of other lose-lose kind of transactions like war, where losing means dying, or losing means poverty, or losing means losing something substantial. Here, they're losing at a game, and I think that's important. I think it's a sick culture where it enjoys competition, where the loser loses its life. I mean, Rome, in certain portions of certain eras in the Roman Empire, suddenly, Romans enjoyed, in I think the height of their hedonistic and nihilistic period, they enjoyed blood sports. They enjoyed watching people die. They enjoyed the competitive zero-sum nature where people really, really lose. The nice thing about sports is there is a winner, there is a loser, but there's nobody dies. Nobody dies. And indeed, even if a player on the other team gets hurt, I think we all sympathize, even if we're rooting for one side and we don't want to see sports turn into a blood sport. Now, we'll talk about blood sports in sports, boxing and other things. But in most sports, we're looking at losers and winners without this kind of extreme loss of life or loss of something really of survival value. There's winners and losers. There are objective rules that everybody knows in advance that we can all follow for the most part. I mean, sometimes in football it gets pretty archaic, American football, or in baseball even, but we can all follow. And suddenly the players on the field know the rules inside out. They're referees that we judge as objective. So there is a real sense of an objective reality. It is what it is. And there is a judge of that reality, the referee. And of course, referees, since they can make mistakes now, we can use technology to improve on the referee's ability. You've got instant replays in football. You've got basically instant replays in basketball, even in soccer now. On certain calls, you have this. But there is an objectivity to sports that to a lot of life, I think particularly today, but no, in any era of human life, is lacking. There's all kind of power structures. There's those kind of people who skirt the rules and seem to get away with it. There's politicians who use force against us. They change the rules periodically. They set up rules that are super complex, are so complex that we have no clue what the hell is going on. In sports, the rules are pretty straightforward. 100-meter dash. You can only start running when they say go. You can't start running before that. Objective reality, objective rules set up, and everybody follows them. And we complain when people cheat. And usually in sport, when they cheat, they get caught. There are exceptions. Maradona's hand of God is a good example of that. Those of you who follow soccer, I think this is '86. It was in the final or the semifinal, where Maradona goes up and heads the ball into the net, but it turns out he didn't really head it, but he punched it with his hand. The referee didn't see it. There was no instant replay in those days. And I think later on Maradona called it the hand of God. He didn't do it. God guided his hand over there to land. There was, of course, the Lance Armstrong shocking cheating scandal after years and years and years and years of denial, of insistence, of moral outrage. Turns out that he was cheating the whole time. So when somebody cheats, when somebody goes against the rules, they are penalized. Their medals are taken away. And we all know what those rules are. We can argue about whether the rules are good or whether they're bad. Once in a while, they're changed. But we all know what they are, and the competitors know what they are. So there is in sports, there is a sense of clarity. There's a sense of objectivity that I think in many parts of our lives we don't really have. And people are not taught explicitly to value it. They value it in spite of themselves. That is, they value it in spite of their education. They value it in spite of the fact that it doesn't exist in the rest of their lives. And one of the sad things about sport, if you will, is that people then don't expect the same clarity, the same focus, the same objectivity in the rest of their life. I mean, imagine they did. Imagine we demanded of our politics. Imagine if we demanded of our businesses. Imagine if we demanded even of the workplace. The same clarity and objectivity that sports provides for us. We don't. Again, sports seems to be a substitute for it. It's a place where we can get that. And it's important. It's so important for human beings. And this is, again, part of the importance of sport. It's so important for human beings to know that reality is knowable, to know that there is a set of rules out there. There is a set of, that reality is objective and understandable and knowable, and that people are playing by some set of rules, and they're winning for a reason, not randomly and arbitrarily. And I think they get that sense from sports. You can get that sense from a great painting. You can get that sense from a great sculpture. Every piece is what it's supposed to be. There's a reason for it. It adds up to something. I think for art, you need to have a much better connection to your own emotions, to your own values. You have to know something about art. You have to educate yourself. Sports, the nice thing about sports, it's very visceral. It's almost everybody, because I think we grew up with sports. We grew up with a ball at our feet or in our hand, or with a bat in our hand or something like that. And so we all have the experience of it, so we know what it is. And as a consequence, it's an easy way to convey these kind of ideas. So I think the first value of sport is just its objectivity, its nobility, its reality orientation. It's reality orientation. And it's a great sense that you have of order. What's going on? There are sports in which I think people enjoy, at least an aspect of it, enjoy the chaos of it. I don't know, the fights in hockey come to mind. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's what makes a sport. I don't think it can. If you love football, again, it's the strategy and the order and the fact that everybody's playing by the same rules and they're normal. So I think that's something admirable about sport, and something that is an immense human value that almost everybody, all of us, gain from it. And it's one of the things that sports provide us. The other realm, and I've talked about this in the past, is the fact that sports is unapologetically, unabashedly about excellence. There's no mediocrity in sport. I mean, there are mediocre players, but even mediocre players are really good compared to everybody else. They're just mediocre within the context of the game, the playing of the league that they're in. But they're not the ones that are adored. They're not the ones that are of interest. It's the one place where we can admire excellence without apology. We can revere talent without having to worry about the inequality police. It's the one place where it's clear that we're not equal. And everybody knows that. And nobody challenges it. Nobody questions that LeBron James, maybe not right now, but LeBron James was the greatest basketball player of his generation. And everybody celebrates that, and they enjoy watching him, and they enjoy that fact. I mean, there might be some crazy nihilists out there who want to break LeBron James's legs and penalize him and weigh him down with weights or do something to make him more equal to the other basketball players on the court. But that is such a minor minority. That is such a side show. That's not what millions and millions and millions and millions of people around the world enjoy about watching LeBron James. They enjoy his excellence. They enjoy the fact that he excels. It's a celebration of human ability. And even though I know I can't do what LeBron James does, it's super thrilling and exciting that some human being can do it. And I gain immense satisfaction from what he does. LeBron James is no dummy. He might be wrong politically, but he's no dummy. You cannot achieve, I mean, one of the things that I think is really important about sports is you cannot achieve the top, you cannot be the best in these sports if you're a dummy. It's just not possible. And again, I don't associate bad political ideas with stupidity. I know a lot of people with decent political ideas who are really, really, really dumb. There's no necessary correlation there. But it is spectacular to see what human beings are capable of. You know, the extent to which they can excel, what they can achieve, the level to which they can rise to. And you don't get to this level without brains, without thinking. I'll show you some of this in a minute. I'm gonna play you a interview with Kobe Bryant, which I think is very illustrative of all these things that we're talking about. But you can't achieve the kind of achievements these guys achieve without using your mind and then working unbelievably hard and having an unbelievable willpower and placing your selfish interest first. We'll see that with Kobe as well. So sports is a place in which we celebrate excellence, in which athletes want to be excellent, in which, in a sense, we celebrate selfishness. I know even in team play, we celebrate selfishness. We celebrate winning. Winning is selfish. Winning is what is the achievement. Being great is selfish. It's self-interested. It's about the joy and happiness and satisfaction that comes from that. Again, I think Kobe expresses this quite well in this interview. But I think if you talk to any athlete who's reached the top of his game, the same is true. So it's objective. It's a field in which excellence is embraced, where nobody doubts it, where that's what we're going for. It's also a field in which we love the self-esteem that these players exert, manifest. Their pride in their own success, their pride in their own ability, their pride in the hard work they put into achieving what they've achieved. It's rare to see such pride in the world in which we live. And it's rare, even more rare, to see such pride expressed and appreciated by others, not rejected, not frowned upon, not condemned, but embraced. Again, sports, I think, brings that out in us. We respond to it. We respond to these positive values because these are survival values. These are values within us. There's a sense in which we would all like to be like the top athletes in our lives. Nobody thinks that way. Most people give up. Most people forget about it. But the response, that emotional response, is a response to that, to wanting that, even if you can't really, even if it's not conscious, even if it's not formulated as as an actual value. And as a consequence, people don't actually achieve it. So it's objectivity, it's excellence. It really is, from a human perspective, an objectivist perspective, great athletes they clearly have values. They clearly know what they want, and they go out and get them. And they don't apologize for it. They go and get what they're pursuing in a single-minded way that if anybody else applied it to their own profession, again, people would ridicule them. I mean, think about the students who work really hard to get great scores in tests and how ridiculed they are in school. But the athlete out on the court who plays every moment that he can to try to make his game better, people admire that, right? Which is kind of sad that they don't admire it in the student studying really hard. Or the business person who's striving to be successful and make more and produce more and create more and make more and more money and works long hours in order to achieve that. Well, we call them workaholics, and we scorn them, and they're greedy and all of that. But the athlete, we accept it. So it's an area in which we're willing to accept this kind of selfish behavior where we're not willing to accept it anywhere else. And that's a hypocrisy worth pointing out to people. It's an illustration of what is possible to human beings. We also, for example, don't complain about the salaries athletes get. We complain bitterly about the salaries CEOs get. Another awful hypocrisy. At the end of the day, CEOs are far more productive, create far greater values, I think, than any sports figure does, and yet they are viewed horrifically, whereas sports heroes are viewed in a positive, overwhelmingly positive way. All right, there's no, as I said, there's no, the other nice thing about it, if the real enemy, certainly the enemy on the left, if the enemy on the left today is egalitarianism, if you will, the philosophical enemy that we face every day is egalitarianism, coming from the left. It's the idea that we're all equal, we're all supposed to be equal. And if the idea is not just egalitarianism, but all forms of altruism, and if you think about intersectionality is this ranking of people based on how oppressed they are. The more oppressed you are, the more value you have, and the more you should be given. Well, sports rejects all that. Sports says, nah, we're not all equal. Some people are better than others. Some teams are better than others. They're winners and losers. And you are no good at the sport. I don't care why. You're off the court. You can't shoot a basket. I don't care why. You're off the court. Even if, I don't know, you just had a horrible thing happen to you, whatever, we might feel for you. Your bad day, it's I don't know, your wife is sick or whatever. It's really bad, but you're not playing. If you're not playing well, you're not playing. That is, there's no gold star for participation. You're either good or you're not. You're either doing your job or you're not. And if you're not doing your job, you're off the court, and nobody says, no, let's feel sorry for him. Just because he's having a bad day, don't penalize him. He's such a nice guy, and he's so caring, and he's such a sweetheart. Put him back up, let him play. Nobody says that in sport. But in life, all the time. Give people second, third, fourth, fifth chances, no matter what. Give them a break. Help them out. Sacrifice for them. The fact that they're not performing right now, it doesn't matter. There's no it doesn't matter in sport. So you can see, again, the rejection of egalitarianism, but really the rejection of altruism. There's no altruism in sport. There's no sacrifice in sport. Sport is about pursuing your values, the value of winning, and within the rules of the game at all costs. And nobody apologizes for that, which is pretty amazing and pretty exciting and fun to watch, because imagine a world where that's how people were. They strove to be the best that they could be in everything that they do. They never apologized for their virtues. They never apologized for their success. And they lived to the fullest. They viewed life like these athletes view their sport. All right, I'm going on and on. Let's watch this interview with Kobe, because I think there's some really good stuff in here, and we can talk about it, and then we can make some additional points. We can make sure that we cover everything that I've got listed. Let me just do something. I did something. Undo, move. All right. So this is a visit that Kobe Bryant made to the University of Alabama, and Coach Saban. They have a little chat. Here he's actually talking to the football players for the University of Alabama. I think this is after the University of Alabama has won the national championship. Now, this is, I don't know, a couple of years before he died, maybe more. I'm not sure exactly what date this is. Maybe somebody else knows when this was. But Kobe was one of the greatest players ever, maybe certainly top 5 players of all time. But he had, and you can see this, what I love about Kobe, I used to hate him, because we hate the players of the opposition. He played against the Celtics, and Celtics won one title, and Kobe won the other, and beat the Celtics. But he's smart, he's articulate, and as you'll see, he's got some, I think, really good things to say about sports and about athletics and about life more broadly. So this is definitely worth listening to. It's about 7 minutes long. We'll see. I'm hoping we get through most of it, because there's a lot of good stuff here. Oh, let me get my headphones so I can follow along as well. Whoops, why can't I hear anything? Let's see. Is this on? Oh, yeah, because I got it muted. All right, here we go. These are the football players.
How you guys doing? Good. Doing good? I know you guys start kicking things off again. There's a lot coming in different directions. You're starting a new year. Right? You guys obviously trying to defend something. And what I always found helpful, particularly when the season starts, is to edit your life. What's most important to you? And when you do that exercise with yourself, things become clear rather quickly.
Edit your life. There's Yaron's rules for life we should add. Edit your life. It is part of Yaron's rules. If you go back to Yaron's rules, prioritize. Create a hierarchy of values. And that's what he's talking about. What he means by edit your life is figure out what is important to you. Figure out what you have to invest in making what's important to you achievable, and get rid of the rest. Everything else, you don't want it cluttering, you don't want it interfering, you don't want it a distraction. Focus, focus, focus. This is fantastic advice. It's advice everybody should take, no matter what you do. Prioritize your values, go for the top ones, and the lower ones, they might still be values. It's not bad stuff necessarily. They might still be positives, but they're just less important, and you don't have time. You have to focus on the things most important to you. And if some other things don't make it, then they don't make it. And for example, here, it's football season. Football season lasts so many weeks. If you want to be a world champion, if you want to be the best in the world, for those weeks, you better be doing football. Now, these are college students, so they also have to do some exams and some classroom or whatever, right? I assume they still do that in Alabama. But beyond that, beyond the must-dos, it's football. No partying, no romance, football. Because that, right now, is your top value, and it requires, and this is the thing that they get in sports and we in the rest of the world and the rest of reality don't really get, is that to be the best that you can be in something requires, if it's an ambitious goal, requires your full attention, requires your full focus. You know, it's not something that you can just dabble with. So I like this. Edit your life. Beautiful sentiment.
You say, I want to be the best, so I want to do this, so I want to do that. And if things in your life don't line up with that, get rid of that. It's not important.
Yep, that's exactly right.
How do you improve? What do you study? You know, when I watch film, I'm always looking at not just what's happening, but what could happen, right? Good and bad. You know, if we did this, you know, that would be successful. Yeah, but what if the defense countered with that? And then
think about the thinking that goes on there when they watch film, right? Not only am I watching to see what they do, but what could they do if I behave differently? And the contingencies, the different situations, the what is possible, right? You know, this is real thinking, strategic, tactical, real thinking about all the different possibilities, so I am ready, not just physically, but I'm ready mentally for the game, because during the game, you're going to have very little time to actually think. You're going to have to be able to respond fast. How do you get to the point where you can respond fast? The way you get to that point is by doing a lot of thinking in advance, and by getting to the point where it's automatized. You play a lot, you think a lot, you train a lot, you practice a lot. You get it to the point where it is automatized.
And what if we counted with this? And what if we counted with that? It would take me 4.5 hours to watch one game, just because I was curious and trying to figure new things out. And then
that's another thing, curiosity, trying to figure things out. You know,
from a competitive standpoint, it's just really simple, man. I'm there to just absolutely demoralize and dominate the person that I'm playing against in the team.
Now imagine in any other field, somebody said, "I'm there to demoralize and or to win or whatever." In any other field. People would look at you like you're insane. But in sports, we accept it. Think of the pride that is involved here. I want to be the best. I want to dominate.
I'm playing against. When I play against somebody and we line up, and you guard me, my whole purpose was to get you to reconsider your life choice to play basketball, right? So at the end of the day, you'd be like, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. You know, and that was my mentality going into every single game, is just to absolutely obliterate this guy. You know, the fact of the matter is I'm still trying to get better. So if I'm playing against a weaker opponent and, you know, I start coasting, I'm building nothing but bad habits myself. You know, if you want to play at an excellent level, if you want to do something excellent, you have to be excellent all the time. It's a way of...
Yeah, I mean, it's a way of life, he's saying. Absolutely. I mean, this is the thing about coasting, right? When you coast, you pick up bad habits, the habit of coasting. You undermine the automation. You undermine the hard work that you put in. So if you're going to really be excellent, you've got to put in the hard work regularly, constantly. You have to be always on the premise of, I want to be the best that I can be. And that's true in sport and true in every aspect of your life. You've got to be on the top of your game. That means you've got to be thinking and you've got to be executing and executing.
Life. It's not just I show up on Monday and be excellent. No, it don't work that way. Right? You got to be excellent across the board. Right? And that's how you build habits. When excellence becomes a habit, then that's just who you are.
Habit is automatization, right? You automatize this idea of excellence. You automatize your dedication. You automatize it as your value, and you're focused on it. And then it just becomes part of you. It becomes part of you. And that, it's such a beautiful sentiment, such an amazing sentiment that you're not going to hear from anybody else other than athletes say it. I mean, I'm sure self-help gurus say stuff like this. But here the guy's done it. This guy was the best basketball player, again, of his generation.
Right, so it doesn't matter if I was playing a game in Memphis or, Sacramento, and you're playing against, it doesn't matter to me. You're gonna get the same result.
But it was interesting, hearing you speak today about, your mentality as a player and how your work ethic, your perseverance gave you the confidence to be the kind of player that you were.
Yeah.
And, my comment about that is every great player that I've ever met, they all have that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this is what it takes to be great. It's not even just in sport. This is what it takes to be great. What it takes to be great is that hard work, perseverance, thinking, commitment, focus.
They all have talent, but they all have that.
Right.
Yeah, talent is never enough. And it's not even clear what talent is. But it's not even enough that you've worked the previous 18 years. If you don't continue on it, if you don't continue the focus, continue the commitment, it'll go away. It won't last. It won't sustain itself.
The process, loving the process, loving the daily grind of it, and putting the puzzle together. It seems like this generation seems to be really concerned with the end result of things versus understanding, appreciating the journey to get there, which is the most important. The trials and tribulations that come along with it. I mean, you have successes, you have failures, but it's all part of the end.
Right.
The end game. And what I see a lot of time from young players is, they'll try, they'll push, and all of a sudden they get hit with some adversity. Nah, let me do something else.
Yeah, it's a difference between instant gratification, the need for instant gratification, the resistance to any kind of effort or pain or investment in a more distant future, thinking long term, versus a real commitment to values, which requires thinking long term, which requires the understanding that sometimes you're not going to get the instant gratification. You're not going to get satisfied now. You're investing for a future. You're putting in the work for something that's going to come later. And that requires maturity. That's what it means to be an adult. Children have a lot of difficulty with resisting instant gratification. Part of what adulthood means, part of what being rational means, of reasoning means, the ability to project into the future, the ability to understand that you're investing in something that has greater value in the future than just whatever feels good in the moment.
Instead of staying with it, you just stay with it.
Exactly.
A lot of guys just kind of give up on it because it's not happening now.
That's exactly right. Everybody wants to be the beast, but not everybody wants to do what the beast do. You heard that one before.
Oh yeah.
So, but and that's the challenge. But that's what I love about the process of being a coach.
I mean, with my kids, we talk a lot about just teaching excellence because it translates, right? Whether it's football, basketball, or baseball, whatever it is. Once you learn what excellence looks like, you can translate that into any field.
That's beautiful, right? Once you learn what excellence looks like, you can translate that into any field. Excellence is possible in any field. Excellence is also it's the best that you can be. It's the best that you can achieve. Right? And it's right in life in general.
Translate into writing, or whatever the case may be. Once you have what that excellence looks like and what that detail and attention to detail looks like, then you have a foundation that you can build anything on top of. Yeah.
We are sort of oriented toward helping people be successful and making the choices and decisions to be successful. And they say, well, if you go there, you won't have any fun.
I gotta laugh. That's funny. That's so funny. That's such a like a
It's a great answer.
An average thing to say. Like I just don't. What the hell does that even mean? Have fun. All right.
The fun of it is knowing you did your best to do something very well.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, it's again the difference between real fun, the happiness that comes from achieving your values, the happiness that comes from knowing you did your best, from really making an effort, from really achieving, for really striving, the joy and the happiness that comes from that, versus Again, the instant gratification, the feeling good right in the moment, which is superficial and dull. And Kobe said immediately, that's just mediocre, average. That's nothing. To be excellent, you have to appreciate that the process, if you are good, if you rise to the occasion, that's the real fun. It's the achievement you get from exerting yourself, from really putting the effort in.
I mean, that's the fun of it.
Right, right. Being excellent is fun. I mean, I have one of my
Being
good
excellent
friends
is
of mine
fun.
Nadia
I love
Comaneci.
that. That's a great line.
And so I asked her just out of the blue, because I kept hearing people say this about her. She missed her childhood and all sorts of stuff. And I said,
This is a great
How
answer.
do you feel about that? She goes, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I learned how to be the best in the world, and I traveled the world and saw some amazing places. Most of my friends were being children doing what? Hanging out at the mall and shopping?
Right.
Well, they weren't hanging out in the mall shopping because they were in communist Romania. There were no malls and they weren't shopping. But the reality is that she got to be the best in the world. She got to do things no other human being has ever done. Nadia Comaneci. She got to travel around the world, see the world. She got to experience the thrill of victory, the thrill of being the best that you can be, the thrill of being the best in the world, the thrill of doing things just physically that nobody else had ever done before. And people say, you lost your childhood? Well, but I gained so much more. So that's a great answer by Nadia Comaneci, and absolutely true. And again, this is the kind of culture of mediocrity that we have. We want everybody to have a childhood and have this and have that and all these middle-of-the-road things. But to excel, to be great, and to dedicate their lives and dedicate time and efforts and really strive towards something, that's too bad. They missed out their childhood.
What's fun about that?
Yeah, what's fun about
I'm
that?
the best in the world.
Right.
That's fun to me.
But I think we live in a little bit more of a, where do I get my self-gratification from? And do you really love the game? And do you love doing the things you need to do to be the best? Or do you just want to get some feedback over here on Twitter, you know, about what you did or how somebody else thinks about you? And I think that's not really good for developing self.
That's great. Developing self. He's criticizing second-handedness. I mean, this is Coach Saban, right? And again, there's something in sport that is very selfish, that is very focused on self, that is very focused on self-achievement, that is not as concerned about what others think of you, but is concerned about you and your ability to achieve.
You're not. You're gonna fake it. You're gonna fake it until you want to go up against somebody that is not faking it, and they're gonna call your bluff, and then you're gonna be in trouble.
And you're going to get exposed.
Yes, you're gonna be in trouble. You're absolutely gonna be in trouble.
I thought it was great that you said, with patience, you have to be impatient.
Yes.
But you can't get frustrated.
No. And that, for me, it was, okay, well, why am I not playing? What can I do differently? I have to be better. All right, well, then that's not good enough. Then I have to be twice as good.
Notice how objective he is here. I'm not playing. I'm on the bench. There's a reason for that. I'm not playing well enough. I have to get better. And the rest of this answer is really, really good.
Right, and for me, it was a challenge of getting to a place where it's undeniable.
Yeah.
You have to play me because I'm that good. I'm that efficient. I'm strong at both ends of the floor. So it actually helped me, because I was coming off the bench for the first 2 years. And it was like, okay, I have to figure this out. I have to be, right? So I used it as a source of motivation, not to get frustrated and complain and whine about it.
But you were being responsible for your own self-determination.
Being responsible for your own self-determination. I mean, these are sports guys talking.
It's also the strength, too, of being able to tell your family members and your friends to shut up.
Here's the second-handedness. Shut up, right? It's not about you. And
because, they'll be in my, oh, you should be starting. Oh, you should be playing. I don't know what they're doing. Shut up. If I'm not playing, I need to get better at this. I need to get better at that. There's things I can control.
That's so objective.
This is what I'm going. But unfortunately, there's a lot of noise, a lot of outside noise from friends and former coaches and all sorts of stuff, filling your head with nonsense. And you have to be able to have the strength to edit that and say, no, I don't want to hear it. This is on me.
Right.
And that becomes tough for young players.
All right. right. So yeah, I think that's just a sample of. I think if you look for other videos of Kobe, you'll find other examples of this. You know, and other athletes. I think the way Michael Jordan talks about working hard and achieving excellence, you find in other. If you've ever seen a documentary on Manute Bol, the 100-meter dash greatest sprinter of all time. If you see anything, Wayne Gretzky, any great athlete, it always boils down to the same thing: personal responsibility, taking responsibility for your own life, focus. Michael Phelps in his swimming career. Now, it is true, somebody's mentioned they burn out, bad things happen to them. Yes, because it is true that almost nobody teaches them, and they don't internalize it, and they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to extrapolate this to the rest of their lives. I mean, imagine people living like this, taking it responsibly. Imagine living in a rational culture in which, well, yeah, of course, this is how people live, and the athletes just apply it to their sport, but we all apply it to whatever it is that we're doing. I mean, as a consequence of kind of the ideas that they've expressed here, they have a certain swagger, a self-confidence, a self-esteem, at least when it comes to their chosen central purpose, which is their sport. And it's beautiful to watch. It's what I think people admired about, let's say, Muhammad Ali, even though I'm not a big fan of boxing. He had this confidence. He could take on anybody. He could beat anybody. He was ready. And we love that kind of confidence in athletes. It's sad we don't love that kind of confidence in other people. You know, imagine a world in which that's the kind of confidence we aspire to, all of us, and the culture aspire to achieving. It's a completely different world. All right, let's see. I mean, again, imagine this in business, or you know, the people talking about the profit motive around stuff like this. I don't think you could believe that. Yeah, somebody says Ayn Rand admired Muhammad Ali. I can see that, because he had this unbelievable confidence and he had a joy about it, right? It wasn't just a in your face. It was in your face, but it was like with a smile, and there was a kind of playfulness to it. It wasn't mean. It wasn't nasty. It always came with a, you know, with a song, right? I mean, what did he have? Something like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I mean, everything about him was this excellence, hard work, commitment to being the best, with a sense of, I really love what I'm doing. All right, let's see. A few other just issues that I think sports brings out that is kind of cool, that beyond just that personal morality. You know, just in terms of the workplace, right? I mean, there's a union, but the union is not demanding equal pay. The union doesn't demand that all 5 players on Michael Jordan's team all get the same wages. The union worries about some minimal level of play and some of the rules for trading players and all of that. But you know, if Michael Jordan can make a fortune and other people on his team are making a lot less, that's appropriate. He's worth it. So even the union recognizes ability, excellence as the standard, and that pay should reflect that excellence. There's no tenure in sport. You don't get tenure like academics or like certain union jobs where you can't fire them. No, if you're not a good coach, if you're not a good athlete, you're out. You're done. You're finished. You're not going to stay on the court out of pity or out of seniority or out of tenure. There's no seniority in basketball. Only to the extent that you've been around, you're really smart, you know what you're doing, you bring maturity to the team, but it has to be reflected in your play. think about the fact that sports is one of the first places where we saw segregation fall apart. We admire greatness, even if the person who's great has a different color skin than us. Even in a culture that was very segregated, there was a certain respect for great athletes. Jackie Robinson, I mean, if you think about Jackie Robinson and how heroic this guy was, I mean, God, I mean, the abuse he took playing is truly unbelievable. And it's hard to believe that America was that racist, but it was just 60, 70 years ago. And he didn't waver, and he didn't respond with violence or with antagonism. He kept his cool. And what he did over time, and quite, I think, relatively quickly, is he proved to be such a great baseball player, that the racists just went away, or they changed their tone, or they shifted. And of course, he proved to be such a good baseball player that he was not going to be the last black to play the game. And of course, today baseball is dominated by Hispanics and blacks, and it's all about talent. Nobody cares. And the same is true of basketball. Basketball, the funny thing is when you see somebody who's not black playing the game and doing well, but people admire that and respect that. Or, a Chinese player, right? What was that? Lin, it was this guy Lin who, there was a streak where he played phenomenally well as and I think it was Chinese, and everybody, people just rooted for him. Even people who typically might be a little xenophobic or a little racist. And it's a global game. It's a game, I mean, sports is global. People admire excellence all over the world. Jeremy Lin, yes, thanks, Ian. All over the world, they rally around the really superb athlete. And I don't care where he's from. I mean, to some extent, there's international rivalry, but at the end of the day, nobody cares where Messi is from. What they care about is how brilliant of a soccer player he is. And the fact that he's originally from Argentina, but he's lived really most of his life now, or a big chunk of his life in Spain, and now he plays for a French team. And he's originally from Argentina, and who cares? He's just an amazing player. Or think about Pelé, who was, black from Brazil and beat the Swedes. And now, there's still racist fans even today. Some of the black players in Europe are treated horribly in soccer. But over time, their excellence breaks that down. Over time, it forces them to come to terms with the fact that human beings that skin color doesn't determine your ability. Skin color doesn't determine your worth. Skin color doesn't determine your talent and your hard work and the energy you put into it. I mean, it's amazing. You can watch any one of these games, and you can see people from all over the world. Japanese baseball players playing in the Major League Baseball and doing amazing things. There's a guy now who both pitches and hits, and he's brilliant at both pitching and hitting, which is almost never the case. Just this amazing Japanese player, and everybody admires him and respects him, and the fact that he's Japanese is irrelevant. So it's a leveler in terms of race. It's a leveler in terms of nationality. Sports has become a symbol of globalization, both in the sense of the market that we're selling into. Why do players make so much money today? It's because, particularly in basketball, let's say, or in soccer, it's because these sports are global. And therefore, the market is not just the local country. The market is 8 billion people. You can pay people a lot more when there are 8 billion people in one way or another buying tickets. So, I think sports is a great way to learn about life. I think sports is a great way to learn about virtues and values and how to make the most of life. It's a great way to gain objectivity and to gain both personal but even political values like, globalization and racism and some of these other, and attitude towards profit and the attitude towards employees and attitude towards inequality. All right, that is my hymn to sports. We got a bunch of sport-related questions. We're so way behind on the Super Chat, even though we've got a lot of questions, but they're all coming in at like $2, $5, $10. So, bring on the $20, $50, $100 questions so we can make the $650. It is a sponsor show, so Adam has already paid me for my time. But this is what sustains the show ultimately is your support. Plus, the questions are great. I love questions. So let's start with the sports questions, and we got one from Brazil, which is a haven of soccer. Leonardo says, sports in Brazil are stronger than religion. A reason I'm optimistic about Brazil's future despite Lula Bolsonaro. Also, come back to Curitiba. Do you think sports can save a nation from religion ideologies? Well, I don't think it can save a nation from religion ideologies. And at the end of the day, but I think it is a good distraction for religion and ideology, and it's a good sign of a healthy culture that they take their sports more seriously than religion And I am hopeful about Brazil in spite of Lula and Bolsonaro. I agree with you on that. But I think we need to help people see that embedded in their love of sports, embedded in what they appreciate in sports, is an entire life philosophy, is much more than just sports. And if we can do that, then I think sports can become a dominant way to help shape a culture, to help make a culture better, right? And I do want to come to back to Curitiba. I'm mispronouncing it again, Curitiba. I do want to come back to Curitiba. I'm going to be in Brazil in April, and we can talk. So drop me an email or something, and let's talk about whether during my trip to Curitiba, to Brazil, I can come by if we can fit it in. That would be great. Last time was fantastic. Thank you for organizing it. It was an amazing event, and the people were wonderful, and you were a fantastic host. So drop me an email and let's make it happen. All right, Andrew says, what are your views on when athletes are condemned for being selfish, as in there's no I in team? I think it's horrible, but I think it's more fundamentally, it's a complete negation of what selfishness is and a complete negation of what the athlete is, because of course the athlete is selfish. You listen to Kobe Bryant, what's at his focus? Him being the best that he can be, him beating other people. And yes, that requires a team. He can't do it one-on-one because he's part of a team. So he has an interest in raising the rest of the team and making them better and doing what's necessary for the rest of the team to be good so that his team can beat the other team. But it's all about his team. It's all about him. If he leaves the Lakers, if he had left the Lakers and gone to play for another team, he would have forgotten about the people he worked with at the Lakers and tried to beat them every time he played, and he would have promoted the other team. Why? Because it was his team. His values, his victory, his success, his excellence. It's exactly the self-interest, that kind of self-interest. And think about what he said before about long-term, about planning long-term, about sustaining effort long-term, about focus long-term, about achieving long-term values. All of that is the essence of self-interest versus the instant gratification that is the opposite of that. You cannot sustain sports on instant gratification, but you cannot sustain sport on altruism, on selflessness. Oh, I'm selfless, so I don't want to win today. Let the other team win. They haven't won in a long time. Give them a win. that would not be sport, and we would not watch it. All right, we'll get to racism in a little while. Paul, let me look for other sports-related questions. I just remind everybody, we've got another $482 to make it to the 650. So, encourage you to think of questions or just express your support. Mike asks, do you admire Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali even though you're not a boxing fan? I don't admire Mike Tyson because I found Mike Tyson to be the opposite of Muhammad Ali. There's a viciousness to Mike Tyson. There's a biting somebody's ear. I mean, there's a willingness to skirt the rules, to do what's necessary even when it's not objective. I admire Muhammad Ali, but I don't have a full admiration for them because I don't like their sport. But I like the character of Muhammad Ali much more than I don't like Mike Tyson. He strikes me as a violent person. Muhammad Ali strikes me as the opposite of a violent person in real life. And that's part of what I like about him. Let's see. Paulo Zu says, Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson, a triumph over adversity against one of the most intimidating fighters ever. Again, I'm not a fan of boxing. I don't like violent sports, any violent sports. It's violence. I don't like turning violence into a sport. Michael H. asks, thoughts on gamesmanship, i.e., using the rules to your advantage while not cheating, breaking the rules. Knowing the rules was very helpful for me. Yes, I mean, I think as long as you go within the rules, I'm fine with what you do. Michael H. also asks, why don't you like boxing? It has been unique in the amount of opportunity it has given people to raise themselves up from obscurity and poverty. It also has so many great heroes like Ali and Joe Louis. I mean, no, I mean, the number of people raised out of poverty and obscurity is much greater in places like basketball, even football and baseball. I mean, almost all the players in those sports have come out of obscurity. All the stars in those sports grew up poor. I mean, you read about how Michael Jordan grew up, or LeBron, or any of these guys. I mean, they have tough childhoods. Who's the guy I was reading about? A lot of them come from broken homes, and look what they achieve. I don't like violence. I abhor violence, period. Violence is only appropriate in self-defense. Boxing is a violent sport. It is about beating somebody up and drawing blood. And I don't like that. I don't like, martial arts, like mixed martial arts in a cage where people try to beat the hell out of each other. I know there's skill involved. I'm not challenging the fact that there's skill in shooting people. There's skill in war. But I don't like, and I like football a lot less now when I know that it's causing real physical damage. How many of those boxers have suffered real brain injuries, real cognitive injuries that have crippled them for life? How many football players does that happen to? And sports that do that, sports that where people do things detrimental to their own mind, to their own brain, to their own ability to live, I'm not a fan of. And again, I used to love football, and I'm much less of a football fan now than I used to be because of that. All right. Fang says, what do you think of teams tanking, planning to lose in order to obtain a top draft pick? I see it as dishonorable, embarrassing, stealing fans' money. I mean, I don't know if it's stealing fans' money, because if they get a draft pick, then the fans will really love it, that next year they're a much better team, or there's a much more fun player. I don't think, I think it's, yeah, I mean, it's not fun, it's not nice, it's not honorable. Teams that do it for part of a season, I can't really, blame them for it. Of course, sometimes they don't even get that draft pick that they really want, because there's an element of luck, there's a lottery involved, but I'm not as offended by it as some, I guess, because it is a strategic play to make yourself better in the future, and I think the fans support that overall. All right, we have one $20 question. I'll take that from Paul, and then we've got a bunch of $5 and $10. If you are going to ask a question in the remaining time, make it a $20 or above a question. Again, Adam, thank you for the sports topic. Oh, there's Adam helping us get to 650, even though he's already contributed. Adam says, thank you as always, Yaron. Until I am a more seasoned objectivist, one of my goals is to sponsor this relatable content that can be shared as an intro to the broader philosophy. Please like and share. Yes, please like and share this show. Again, I think sports is a good way to get people interested, to concretize certain of the values and virtues, to concretize, for example, self-interest, and to show how Kobe is super self-interested, and why that is a virtue, why that is good, and why that is what makes it possible for him to win. He would not win if he was not focused on himself. That's what it means to win. And athletes, the difference between athletes and everybody else is that they can get away with it culturally, and that it seems like nobody else can really get away with being as assertive about their self-interest as athletes can. And I think they get penalized by the culture for it ultimately, and that's part of the burnout. It's part of it is once they leave, they don't feel comfortable in having that same self-assertiveness because they can't broaden it. They can't extrapolate from it to the rest of their lives. By the way, if you're interested in my favorite teams or anything like that, I see people asking, that's what the Super Chat is for. It really is what the Super Chat is built for, asking me questions. All right, Paul, to what extent is racism a substitute for hatred of different cultures that people come from? I think it's much more basic and foundational than hatred of cultures, because I think people hate the other, people who look different from them, before they know anything about the culture. So there's something very tribal, primitive, barbaric in racism that is pre-culture, in a sense. You hate the other tribe because they're the other tribe. Not because the other tribe has a culture that you don't like, but because they're the other tribe. And you hate somebody who looks different than you because they look different from you, and because it's a form of pseudo self-esteem to elevate yourself as if you're superior. And now, the more you know about them, the more it gets intermingled with the hatred of different cultures. But there are lots of cultures that I hate. I don't hate the people, and I don't hate the people because because they grew up in that culture. I don't hate the people because of the way they look. So I think the two are related, but in some sense, the more fundamental is the racism, the tribalism, the determinism that is associated with a particular genetic makeup. And then, and their culture is pretty bad. I don't like their culture. But then there's again determinism. Is this the only culture they can have? Is because they have a particular skin culture, they can't adopt a different culture? They can't integrate into a different culture? They can't assimilate into a different culture? So you can hate a culture and not hate the people because you know that they're individuals, they have a mind, they have free will, and they can change their culture. Culture's changeable. Your genetic code is not. All right, we now have $5 and $10 questions. So I am looking for another $400 Super Chat questions. Yeah, that's right. All right, Harper Campbell. I'm ambitious. What can I say? Ambitious for you. Do you think objectivists are too quick to accuse people of nihilism, or is it there really that much of it around us? I think we're probably too eager to call it. I think you have to be careful. I think there are a lot of motivations for people. A lot of people are just second-handed. A lot of people just follow a crowd. They just do what other people do. Generally attributing motives is very difficult. Unless somebody has actually stated, written, discussed their motives, it's hard to tell what they are. So I think we probably often are guilty of ascribing to people motives without really knowing them fully. Behavior can be nihilistic even though the motivations might not be. Again, the motivations might be irrational in some other way. Nihilistic behavior is always going to be motivated by something irrational, but it might not be particularly nihilism. It might be something else. Liam, when you go on a first date and don't feel a spark, but she wants a second date, how much effort should you put in to discover if you'll experience a spark with a person in the future? I mean, I think you should be very careful about overemphasizing sparks. Sparks are not well defined. You don't really know what causes them. You don't know exactly where they come from unless you're super integrated and super introspective and you know exactly what they mean. If she was an interesting person, if you enjoyed spending time with her, then absolutely take a second date. Because sparks can build. It's not 0-1. It's not you either have it or you don't. You can have a little bit, and it can grow, and it can intensify, and it can be much bigger than you could ever imagine as you get to know her. You're not, love at first sight is possible, but not all love is at first sight. Not all love is at first date. So it's always, you have to know a person. You have to know their values. You have to know their character. You have to know their personality. And you can't know all that in a first date. And if there's reason to believe that this person is a good person and there's some connection that you can have with them without reverting to some emotional spark, then you should follow up on it. I think we gut feeling sparks, we play way too much into it, and it borders on emotionalism, and you have to be very careful. I mean, at the end, you have to be sexually attracted to somebody, and you have to have a real emotional connection, but that can build. That doesn't necessarily have to happen on a first date. The Master, do you think it's worse for a danger sport to also be a blood sport rather than just be a dangerous like motor racing, even if the chances of being hurt are the same in each? Yes, I think there's something wrong about a blood sport, no matter how dangerous or not dangerous it is. I think anything that involves violence and blood, I just think there's something off in that, in liking that, in supporting that. I'm against violence. I don't like violence. Violence should be relegated to self-defense, right? And yes, you want to train to be really good at something, and but if it involves beating somebody up, seriously, it's not a sport, and it's not entertaining, and I don't want to watch it. In terms of a dangerous sport, well, it depends on how dangerous. And again, the more dangerous it really is, the more objectively dangerous it is, the less likely I am to watch it. If people are really putting their lives at stake, I am not interested in watching life or death battles. I want to see excellence, and I want to see excellence on display, but not at the price of people's lives. But I'd rather take a dangerous sport than a blood sport. Okay, thoughts on professional wrestling. While predetermined, it's a simulated competition that, when done right, can portray virtues much like a film. It saved television in the 1950s and is a truly American creation. Yeah, I mean, but it's a little ridiculous because it's staged. It has superficial, really, really shallow heroes and villains. It's a cartoon. It's a particularly gross, not in disgusting, but gross in terms of rough cartoon image of good versus evil. It's violence. It's staged violence, sure. It's for kids. I never liked it because I knew it was staged, and it was just violent, and the characters seemed stupid. And if you wanted that kind of drama, movies, cartoons, comics, books, adventure books, adventure novels, plenty of much more fulfilling places, things to enjoy and to benefit from in the professional wrestling. I mean, I wouldn't spend a second of my precious time alive engaged in something like, or watching or participating in any form in something like professional wrestling. It is not to America's credit to have invented it. It's the essence of superficiality. Mark just became one of my private live Q&A one-on-ones on YouTube. He says, greetings, Yaron. Want to know what your schedule for one-on-one Q&A session is this quarter and how to get in touch with you regarding them. Glad to have continued membership here on YouTube in addition to Patreon. Mark, the best way to get a hold is to email Angela or email me, Yaron@yaronbrookshow.com, and I will forward it to Angela. And then what she will do, she has my schedule, and she will schedule our one-on-one. She will schedule that for, I'm traveling this week, I'm traveling next week, but the week after that, so I'd say sometime early in February, we should be able to get together. So yes, email me, and once she should have you on her radar anyway, because of the level that you're at. So she might be contacting you anyway, but certainly you can initiate by sending me an email. All right. Let's see. Michael, under an objectivist government, is it proper for the government to recognize famous people like Martin Luther King by exclaiming a special day for them? Seems statist. Yeah, it's very statist. It's inappropriate. Government should not be doing this. You should have Independence Day, and basically that's it. Independence Day should be the only national holiday. Maybe certain traditional holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, but other than that, there should be no holidays that the government recognizes. The government's not it shouldn't be in the business of assigning holidays or elevating certain people at other people's expense. I don't think there should be national statues or national monuments. I think those should all be private. All be private. Angela is not here, so if you email me, I will forward your email to Angela, and that way you guys can communicate directly. Michael Sanders asks, is Michio Kaku a quack? I don't know who that is. You'll have to elaborate. Michael says, are steroids really cheating? Why is it illegitimate to have an athletic organization that allows its athletes to take steroids? I don't think it is illegitimate. It's just a question of what are the rules of the game? If the rules are that steroids are cheating, then steroids are cheating. And I have no problem with an athletic organization saying everybody can use steroids, whatever. But that needs to be the new set of rules. So, there are rules of the game, and you go from there. But you don't get to change. You don't get to make your own rules. That's part of what sports is. It's got an objective set of rules. Part of those in today's world is no steroids. I don't know if that's a good rule or a bad rule, but it is the rule, and people should follow it to the extent that it is the rule. All right, we're past the halfway mark to get to our goal, so that's a good thing, because for a while there I wasn't even sure we'd make it this far. But we can still do better than where we are today. And we don't have a lot of live viewers. Of course, if I was doing something on the vaccines, or if I was doing something on Trump or Biden or something like that, we'd have over 100 live views. But I'm doing something on sports and values and virtues. People aren't interested, it seems. So it's a bigger challenge to get to our numbers, but we're slowly chipping away. Thank you, Richard. Richard says the NFL schedules about 15% of its games with teams in the same division rank from the previous season, which makes for better matchups, parity. One GM called it creeping socialism. What do you think? No, I think it's a recognition of the fact that those games are more entertaining, more competitive, They also get better TV spots. The TV stations pay better to the NFL for doing that. That provides more motivation for the teams because they get paid on how much TV revenue there is to get better. So I have no problem in using past rankings to, because football is unique in that there are very few games every season, right? In baseball and basketball, every team plays every team several times. Same in hockey. In football, you don't play every team. You only play some teams. So they have to have some standards. I don't have a problem with that standard. I think it's ridiculous to call it socialism or egalitarianism. It's just a way to make the game more interesting and more entertaining. Okay, so Mark says it's pronounced Michio Kauku. Michio Kauku. Don't know who that is. Still don't know who that is. Did somebody explain it? I don't see anybody. Oh, also Michio Kaku is famous American astrophysicist who is involved in popular science. Sorry, I mean, I think I've said in the past, astrophysics, not my thing, just not that interested in it. And I don't know, so I don't know what I don't know. I know, it's amazing how much I do know, I guess. All right, Michael says, is it better that the founding fathers thought rights came from God rather than thinking rights are granted by society? Are mistakes like that what have brought time? Well, I think this idea of, not so much of a God, certainly not of a Christian God, but of some kind of deity or of what do you call it? Natural rights, nature. Yeah, all of that is helpful. I mean, if the founders had been religious fanatics, if they'd been devout Christians who thought rights came from God in kind of a Christian kind of sense, it wouldn't have survived. It's because they were secular that they could get away with a creator, a God, a deity, just so we can get the concept of rights. But the God, the deity, the religion played a minor role in the whole articulation of the thing. Michael asks, how low could California's taxes have to go before you'd consider moving back, or is it more about the regulatory burden? I mean, for me at this point in my life, it's mainly about the taxes because I'm not going to have a business in California that is going to be burdened by regulations, and I'm not going to employ people probably, and I don't have kids who have to go through the educational system there. It would be exposing yourself to the craziness of California politics. I don't know how low they would go, but a lot lower. Well, the problem is not California. The problem is the federal taxes. The problem is if I moved to California, I'd have to pay federal taxes. So California could lower it to zero. I still have to pay federal taxes, so I still wouldn't move to California. If California and Florida both had zero taxes, and I had to move to one of the two, I would move to California easily over Texas, Florida, California. If they all had the same tax regime at this point in my life, I would move to California. The weather's better. The quality of life, I think, is better. The weather plays a big role in my view of the quality of life. And it's as I've said many, many times, it's an incredibly pleasant place to live. Michael says, have intellectuals given up on consistent authoritarianism? Yeah, I think they at least consciously have, until the consistent charismatic authoritarian comes around and they all rally behind him. So I don't think they've given up on principle. But they don't hold it. I don't think intellectuals hold it. We need a consistent authoritarian. I think very few intellectuals ever hold that. But I think they're easily seduced by that because the philosophy they do hold is ultimately consistent with that. So they when the time comes, they can't resist it. They can't fight against it. All right, we need, $10, $20 questions? Well, really 15, but 10 would be good. Michael, are second-handedness and narcissism the same thing? No, not at all. Second-handedness is caring what other thinks, not just about you, but about anything. Second-handedness is about other people are the standard for what you believe, what you think, for the truth. Narcissism is what you care about is what other people think about you. And you want, everything is about you, not in a healthy kind of way, but unhealthy kind of way. And you want the full attention of everybody, whether you deserve it or not. You want their full admiration, whether you deserve it or not. You want everything to be about you, whether you deserve it or not. Michael says, do you ever rewatch any of your shows or interviews, debates, or read the comment section? I read the comment section. I don't rewatch anything that I do. Not in many years. I used to get better at speaking. I used to watch my talks, but I don't watch it. I don't have time. I mean, I do 8 shows a week. When am I supposed to watch them? When people read Ayn Rand and nothing clicks or resonates with them, does that mean they haven't developed any serious types of soul or sense of life? I think they have a bad sense of life. I think that in some sense they're not valuers and they haven't developed a serious soul. If nothing really clicks with them, I think it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. Yeah. I mean, I think it can be more complicated than that, and there can be reasons why it doesn't click in spite of them having some positive values. But that's a longer discussion on what that means. Whoops. Michael says, why do you think most PhDs are idiots, yet so highly regarded in our society? Well, I mean, clearly they're not idiots if what you mean by idiots is kind of what people talk about intelligence or IQ or whatever. To get to a PhD program, you have something. What you are is detached from reality. And you're detached from reality because that's what they, to a large extent, teach you in a PhD program. That's the philosophy. That's what philosophy believes. In order to know the truth, you have to detach yourself from reality. So they are incompetent. They are stupid in that sense, in the sense of dealing with reality, but not in a sense of the raw horsepower that they have. They're probably smarter than most people. They're just wrong on almost everything. And the more they study in school, the wronger they get, and the more stupid they get, or idiotic they get, or whatever. But it's not about their raw intelligence. It's about, again, the disconnect from reality. And they're highly regarded in society because society has set education as the standard by which we determine knowledge and smarts and ability and so on. They're the ones teaching us. So of course we highly regard them. They're our teachers. They're our teachers. Michael says, you say Ayn Rand was inappropriately modest, but she didn't seem that way on her Phil Donahue interview. Would you have Phil Donahue on the show to discuss his 2 interactions with Ayn Rand? Is Phil Donahue still alive? If he's alive, he's super old. I mean, if I could get him and he was still, interesting, and I would have him on the show. Raphael says, hey, Yaron, I'm in London this week. Any good recommendations for someone that loves Rand? Sorry for not using the super chat, but it gives me an error. Great art museums, National Gallery, the Tate English, not the Tate Modern, the Tate English. Some great art in both those museums. London is just a magnificent city, just a walk. Just walk around the different neighborhoods, go to different places, great restaurants. The art museums are great. Victoria and Albert is also a great museum with a lot of history and a lot of art that's definitely worth going to see. Victoria and Albert. British Museum, there's a good one. The British Museum, particularly, there's a room there that is like the library of kind of a Renaissance man, of an Enlightenment man, woman, primarily it was man back then. and it would be truly, that was a truly magnificent room and super interesting exploration, science, literature. So British Museum, yeah, those are some, and then just walk and enjoy just the different neighborhoods in London. It's a magnificent city. Apollo, what about even Knievel and Philippe Petit, devils who people enjoy watching? I mean, I get it. It's just, didn't even Knievel die, or didn't he die in one of his crashes? I mean, I don't like sports where you can die. I mean, not where you can by a fluke die, but where, yeah, high probability you're going to die. I mean, it's obviously these people have amazing skill and talent and excellence and so on, but they're putting their life at risk for what? I mean, it's serious risk. I'm not talking about skydiving or something, which is pretty low risk. I'm talking about Evel Knievel pushing the envelope to get to the edge of death and then going over that edge. So I'm not a... Frank says Robbie Knievel just died of cancer. Anyway, I'm not a huge fan of daredevils. Again, it's just, you're playing with death. You only have one life. We talked about this in the Iran rules for life. You only have one life. Live it. Don't live it on the edge and raise your probability that you lose the one life that you have. All right, guys. Thank you. I appreciate the support. I appreciate all the super chatters. Thanks for all the questions. I hope you enjoyed the show on sport. I know I did. It was fun to do. Thank you, Adam, again, for the sponsorship. Hopefully, we'll get a lot of shares. Please like the show before you leave, if you liked it, of course, but click that like button. It helps the algorithms. If you can think of a sexier, snazzier title than Explaining Values and Virtues Through Sports that might get people's attention and might increase viewership, let me know. I'm happy to change the title to get clicks. Happy to do that. I will... Again, I'm not sure about the schedule for the rest of the week because I am traveling. I'll be in New York tomorrow. But what did I want to say? Stay tuned. I'll probably be doing shows from the road. The only day I know that I will not be doing a show is Friday. But other than Friday, I'm going to try to do a show tomorrow. I'm going to try to do something on Thursday. So stay tuned for those. And I'll see you all. And if I don't catch you tomorrow or Thursday, I'll catch you on